move to our final breakout group. And so, Chris, here's a microphone for you so that you can be recorded. Okay, there we go.
So this is for Group 5, and we were talking about data delivery and data dissemination. I'm always surprised how you can take a group of strangers from four corners of the country, put them together in a little group of chairs, ask them to discuss something that's completely abstract, like ocean data dissemination, and they all really rise to the occasion, and it's a very positive sort of happening. So we had people from agencies, from universities, from NGOs, and the like. It was quite a diverse group. And the subject matter, there's quite a lot in it, actually. And so my summary of it is going to fall short, that's certain. But anyway, here we go, and I'm just going to work through the points. I'll ask anybody that wants to add anything during the talk just to do that, okay? Overall, the group was very pleased, very impressed with what GIS has done for data dissemination. So, you know, when you look back at the history of it, it's such a positive history that that's the first plus we really want to put on the board here. So the possibilities now for publishing data are just tremendous. We can publish data anywhere, it goes worldwide. It's relatively easy to do, the infrastructure is taken care of, and the internet, and all these tremendously positive things. It's got to the stage now where we can disseminate scripts, which is a big step forward. We can share tools and have not just data distributed, but also functionality distributed. So everybody was very happy with this. The first real nugget in the discussion was about REST. And this is representational state transfer technology, where basically you can address any data item by just sending a URL, which mimics a query. So the query syntax is held actually in a URL, and you can go and get data this way. And what's more, you can publish data that way through a simple ASCII URL. And the group really commended Esri for implementing REST services in the software. And they're all looking forward to getting in and really using this in a big way. So the other aspect of data dissemination that came up was the issue of dark data. And I don't know how many of you have heard of it or seen it, but dark data exists. You all know it's out there. It's data that is hidden from view, hard to discover, data that has been forgotten. But you know, with the new environment that we're operating in, where data is so easy to publish, there's really no excuse, even to small, underfunded projects, there's no excuse for them to hide their data, to keep it dark anymore. Before you used to get the complaint that, oh, I'll release my data when I get the time or when I get the funds or something like that. But the entry level to publishing data these days is so low that it's really no longer a suitable excuse. That to me is a very important thing, because in my project I'm actually in the global seabed, I'm starting to exhaust the obvious sorts of data, the obvious sources of data, and I actually have to start now looking in bottom drawers for the lost data. So it's quite an interesting thing for me. All right, so looking at it in a different view, the publication of data, the ease of publication of data through GIS and for the ocean domain, it brings consumer benefits as well, not only to the people who are actively trying to push data out. So the ease of use, playing to the natural human capability for mapping things, people just naturally being able to walk into mapping systems, this is really terrific. Now this is something where I might need a little help here, but we were concentrating on the effectiveness of communication with handing data out and tools, and thought that this is really an important thing in this day and age where we're trying to increase education, awareness, long-term decision-making, and those things. So effective communication to go with the data, and data itself as a form of communication, is something that caught the interest of the group. And so I've got a little keyword here, story maps, and I'll just let you dwell on that a little bit. So everyday use of maps figures in again. It's a natural human thing to use maps. And then also it was pointed out that good communication really helps coastal management and ocean management. So we're not just talking to people like ourselves, but we're also talking to people who've come in as economists and managers and with a political agenda and so on. So good communication is really important. Okay, so the other positive is performance and scalability. The people in the group were quite concerned about facilities and funding and resources and things like that, because this is the practical world we live in. We have to get the computers to do the job. We have to get the computers in order to get the job done. And so we were interested in the performance of our systems relative to what can be achieved with GIS data. We're interested in how our facilities can digest bigger and bigger data sets and more complex data sets. The cloud as an issue really came up, and I think one person said that you really have to rethink the whole concept of what an enterprise is these days, because a fraction of it is on the cloud. And so old views of what an enterprise is are really having to be changed. Just as a note to that, and this sort of is a negative, but people in the agencies were dismayed at the policies that are being put out from their contracting sections, and the contracting sections are very slow to take up on the cloud, and it's actually difficult for them to put data out there and also to use it generally. So that was an issue not for me to have anything to do with, but it might be something that Esri wants to tackle policy-wise. Okay, so dynamic mosaicing. So can somebody help me with that? Yes, thank you.
Yeah, is this on? I think the issue here was that there's some extensibility now in some of the extensions that really support the performance, and one of the things that certainly came up was the image extension, usage of the extension to do some dynamic mosaic function. That capability really had not been there before, so for some of us who do a lot of raster and want to be able to produce this at multiple scales, this is sort of one of those game changers that really benefits us and the community.
Okay. Now let me see. So people were pointing out that ocean data sets are often very large. In some ways, it's quite easy just to collect data 24 hours, 7 days a week as the ship goes along in the ocean, and some of these data sets are getting very large. And then data integration was also flagged. Sorry. Okay, so we were given pluses and minuses to play with and interestings, but we really do want another symbol, and that's a I love symbol. So a heart symbol, and so the group agreed that the base map is something that everybody just loves. Okay, some people in the group were really smitten by it, and I was asked to pass that on, so it's very good. Take a bow. Yeah.
Yay.
More data, very good. Sounds like a good idea. All right. So again, we often turn to discussing resources for the work we have to do, delivering data and the like, and people are very happy that the vector is going in the right direction with this and that we're getting more bang for bucks. Okay, now there's some negatives to this. And so the fact that it's easier to deliver data means that it's easier for people to lie with it. And somebody brought up the title of the book. I don't know who the author was, but the book is called How to Lie with Maps. I haven't seen it myself, but it's believable. And so we got to the issue of certifying data, and we're wondering wondering how that might be done. And of course, people said that, well, it sort of takes place naturally anyway with metadata. But that's such a nerdy, clunky, Fortran-esque sort of way of doing things that it really doesn't get the message through. So we were wondering whether we need to have a system where we can accredit reprocessings or remappings of our own data. And I know that this occurs with my system, so I look at some maps that are produced from it and my heart sinks. You know, because they've done something silly or coloured it wrong or so on, and I can't really write to them and slur them, you know. But what I can do is to put a badge on to the good ones and really say, yes, this is something that I think is really the right way to handle the data. So we're wondering whether some badging system might be appropriate, maybe from each major supplier of data, not the map make, not the GIS system, but from the, so NOAA could scanning around say, yes, we approve this. You know, I'm the candidate standing for election, and I approve this message, right? So we were trying to imagine how this would work and whether there's any sort of scheme. Somebody raised the issue that there may already be a similar scheme with ISO or something, but I think it's worth considering. So that's the dark side. That's one dark side of easy data delivery. We looked at the issue of why are people hesitant to publish their data? You know, there are all sorts of reasons thrown up. Don't have time, it's not good enough, or I just want to validate it first. But this is really an issue that needs to be talked about, and I think it's a very good idea to try to reduce those excuses. Right, take them away with technology or whatever, and try to get the more data out there. And the companion to dark data is a type of data called long-tail data. So when you look at the distribution of NSF grants, it's an exponential distribution, and the overwhelming number of grants given out by NSF are in the sub-$100,000 category. Now, those projects tend to run out of money very quickly, and it's disproportionately their data never gets published. However, those studies tend to be the tail where the major inventiveness is. Some of those studies will grow to become really huge projects eventually. So it's very important that we capture that data because it's intellectually rich, right? Unlike some of the more mature projects that are just collecting the same old stuff. On a larger scale. So I think it's very important to try to bring down and dissolve the excuses that people have for not releasing their data. Okay, so we turn to metadata and web services, and this may be, this is the major minus, this one here. So we really would like to see a system where the metadata is bound to the data. Right, so just to take a really simple example, when you drag an HTML file from one folder to another, in Windows anyway, resources, the images, go with it, right, even though you don't drag the image folder. So somehow the metadata needs to be bound to the data and to go with it all the time. And I don't know whether that system already exists, but certainly the group really wanted to see something like it.
Just one other quick point maybe on that is not only have this binding between the data and metadata, but this bind is actually between the metadata for the data and the actual web services and a metadata record for that. So it's this synchronization of being able to discover both in one place without having it in separate places.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this situation needs to be overhauled. Let's see, yes. So I mentioned REST before, the representational state transfer. So conveying data locations with a URL. This is up for endorsement in the OGC, the Open Geospatial Consortium. And so the group was really looking forward to this happening. And if it doesn't happen, that's really going to be a minus. Okay, so ArcGIS Online improvements. There were a number of technical issues with this. I don't probably need to go into much detail. There are a number of failures, perceived failures in it. Complex data set rendering, raster attribution, not being able to interrogate Z values off the images, relationship classes, and so on. I won't go into detail, but there were a number of issues. Okay, and OpenDAP, which I noticed some other groups have raised as an issue, so that everybody would like to see more connectivity with OpenDAP. Okay, so the interesting points. Again, on the issue of absentee data which isn't taking part in the community, we were imagining that there might be a way of actually calling for data. So we could imagine that there's a gap analysis, particularly in estuarine or swamp locations, for instance, where the science is all done with dinghies that aren't computerized. So, you know, these small boat operations or these Wellington boot operations really are sort of absent from our science collections. And it would be good to put out sort of a call for data somehow. I'm not quite sure how you would do it, but, you know, a GIS offers the potential of doing that, right? So that's good. And rated data sets, that comes back to the badging. This again is the call for data sort of thing where we do a gap analysis. So we mine the metadata and create a map for data richness or gaps. But lastly, everybody really agreed that the GIS industry has broken down a lot of barriers, made our work incredibly easy compared to what it used to be, and that the results are all good. All right, thanks.
Are there any questions, further comments here? So down in front, Ben and Will.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out what I actually heard as a bit of a contradiction in what you were saying is that you want easier, better access and distribution of the data, but then a reluctance to share your data because you don't like the way that people sometimes use it. I encounter lots of people who don't want to share their data because they don't think other people can use it in the correct way. And I'm not sure a certification process would solve that. So my philosophy is democracy is messy, and if we're going to we need to just get it out there and let people use the data. And I think the key way of lowering the barrier to sharing data is to let go of the control and just, you know, you have to let it get out there. But that's my opinion.
And I just wanted to echo your enthusiasm for the ocean base map, which is just, I mean, it's just fantastic, and what we sort of intend to, by default, expose in C-Sketch. However, I do have a gripe with it, and that is that as you zoom in to larger scales and you get to areas where there are no data, you get there are no data here, or we haven't collected data yet. I think it's just a bad user experience. for at least online and web apps, it would be great if that could just be replaced with a blue tile. And yeah, you're lying with your map at that point, but I think this is a good case for lying with your map.
Thanks. All right. Oh, well, let's, Mike Wilburn wants to respond, I think. You want to respond to that? Yeah, and so can we run we've got our microphone runners on the run here.
Hi guys, my name's, is it on now? My name is Mike. I actually work on the ocean base map, and with regard to your comment about the no data tile, so something you had mentioned is you'd like to see sort of just a blue tile in general, and depending on the sort of interface you're using to actually view the ocean base map, if you use ArcGIS Online, there is the blue no data tile that does show up. So I guess what I would ask is, what type of interface are you using to actually view the ocean base map? C-Sketch, okay. And so within it, when you zoom to an area where there is no data, it just disappears from view altogether? Okay, okay. So that's maybe something we can circle back to. Yeah, definitely.
Tied to their video system. So if you've got a memory stick, that's better.
Oh, hi, sorry. In the negatives, and I don't remember if this is in the positives, I see a mention of OGC only in one context, under the REST services that are being considered. It's curious, I think, or I'd love to hear your thoughts on the groups and why you didn't mention the web services, the existing web map service and WFS, if you in your group had a discussion about that and what your consensus was.
I'm not the person to answer that because I was actually the OPV. So maybe somebody else would like to take that up.
With a reminder that OPV stands for Other Point of View.
Well, it's not to denigrate the existing OGC services, but the Esri specification is nice in that it's simple, well-defined, and comprehensive in one specification. And I don't think that's matched by the collection of, especially the older OGC services. So I for one, really like the Esri Geoservices REST specification.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks again. Great discussion.